Skeletal system of frog. The skeletal system of frog, that's an endoskeletal system, and it is chiefly composed of bone. A few cartilage bones are also present. The endoskeleton that could be divided into two, the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. The axial skeleton is composed of skull. It is composed of skull and the vertebrae, whereas the appendicular skeleton is made of limbs and the girdles. The limbs and the girdles together form the appendicular skeletal system. The skeletal system of frog, it is composed of two parts, the axial skeletal system and the appendicular skeletal system. The axial skeletal system, this includes the skull as well as the vertebrae, as well as the appendicular skeletal system is composed of the pectoral girdle, the pelvic girdle and the hind limbs as well as the forelimbs. So we start with the axial skeleton. So the skull, it is formed of cartilage bones derived from the partly ossified chondrocranium of the tadpole and the membrane bones formed by direct ossification. The bones of cranium, sens capsules, jaws and hyoid apparatus make up the skull. And the skull could be further divided into cranium. It could be divided into cranium, the auditory capsule, the olfactory capsule, the upper jaw as well as the lower jaw and the hyoid apparatus. So the skull, the axial skeletal system is composed of skull and vertebral column. The skull is composed of cranium where you have the bones enclosed, the auditory capsule where you have the auditory system, the tympanum covering the auditory capsules. Then you have the olfactory capsules where you have the eyes, the upper jaw, the lower jaw and the hyoid. So we start with the upper jaw. Is actually composed of the upper jaw. It is firmly united to the cranium. Within the upper jaw, we start with the skull. The cranium. The cranium is actually where you have the bone. It encloses the brain. It encloses the brain, and it has small apertures called foramina for the passage of the cranial nerves and blood vessels. You can see small openings which is known as foramina, which help in the passage of cranial nerves and blood vessels. And there is a wide opening at the posterior end. You can see a wide opening. This wide opening is known as foramen magnum, and it is through the foramen magnum which the brain continues posteriorly as the spinal cord, and which the spinal cord is enclosed within the vertebral column. The cranium is formed of 6 bones, a pair of ex-occipitals. A pair of ex-occipitals are there. You can see here it's 2 in number. Ex-occipital you call ex-occipitals. A pair of frontoparietal, where the parietal bones and the frontal bones are fused together, and a parasphenoid. This region is known as parasphenoid. Frontoparietal, that's the anterior one. Then you have the parasphenoid and a sphenoethmoid. A sphenoethmoid is also present. So cranium is composed of 6 bones, a pair of ex-occipitals. So you have 2 ex-occipitals, a pair of ex-occipitals, a pair of frontoparietals, a parasphenoid and a sphenoethmoid. Parasphenoid and sphenoethmoid are 1 in number, whereas ex-occipitals, frontoparietals and frontoparietals are 2 in number. Are pairs. They are seen in pairs. So you have the frontoparietals, a pair of frontoparietals, a pair of ex-occipital which is found on the posterior side. Here on the posterior side you have the x-occipital. The frontoparietals are on the anterior side. Then you have the parasphenoid on the dorsal side, and on the ventral side you can clearly see the sphene ethmoid. This is the sphene ethmoid. So these six bones together form what is known as cranium, and enclosed within it the brain. Brain is enclosed within the six bones, a pair of x-occipital which covers the posterior side. On the anterior side you have the frontoparietals, and on the dorsal side you have the parasphenoid. On the ventral side you have the sphene ethmoid, and covering through the posterior side you have the x-occipital. These six bones enclose what is known as a bone, and they form what is known as cranium. The x-occipitals and the sphene ethmoid, both of these are cartilage bones. The x-occipitals are small irregular bones, one on each side. There you can see that they are irregular bones, one on each side. You can see them one on each side, or it is like a brain, it could be divided. Frog is a bilaterally symmetrical organ. So on both sides x-occipitals are present, making it into a cranium. And the x-occipitals are small irregular bones, one on either side of the foramen magnum, which is the opening by which the brain continues as spinal cord. And here each x-occipital bears an occipital condyle. You can see two condyles which is known as x-occipital condyle. You could see two condyles which is known as occipital condyle, which articulates with the corresponding depression of first vertebrae, the atlas. So there is a occipital condyle, that's a projection from the x-occipital that fits into the atlas of the first vertebrae of vertebral column. So the head that is within this, that is joined with the vertebral column by means of an articulation between this occipital condyle and the groove that is present in the atlas of the first vertebrae. And the frontoparietals are long flat bones. They form the roof of the cranium. Each frontoparietal originates as two distinct bones, the frontal bones as well as the parietal bones, and later they fuse together to form the frontoparietal. A dagger-shaped bone, the parasphenoid, a dagger-shaped bone is there which is known as parasphenoid bone, and this parasphenoid bone forms the floor of the cranium. The floor of the cranium is formed by the parasphenoid bone. The blade of the dagger is directed forwards, and the lateral extension lie beneath the auditory, where it is in contact with the auditory capsule. You can see that it is in contact with the auditory capsule. The tubular sphene ethmoid forms the anterior wall of the cranium. It is covered dorsally by the frontoparietals and nasals, and ventrally by the womb parasphenoid. The sphene ethmoid, it is covered dorsally by the frontoparietals and nasals, and ventrally by the parasphenoids. The large orbits which lodge the eyeballs lie on the two sides of this cranium-like structure, which is formed of 6 bones. These 6 bones together form the cranium, and on either side of the cranium you can see the space where you have the eyeballs. Next comes what is known as auditory capsule. The auditory capsule, it is situated on this is the auditory capsule which is situated on either side. It is situated on either side of the cranium posteriorly, and it encloses the internal ear. It encloses the internal ear. The cartilage bones pro-aortic forms the roof and anterior wall of each auditory capsule. The anterior wall of each auditory capsule is formed by pro-aortic bones. The rest of the capsule is formed by calcified cartilage. Its outer wall has small aperture which is called fenestra ovalis. The fenestra ovalis is the outer aperture of this auditory capsule, and a slender cartilage called columella oris fits into the membrane covered aperture. So auditory capsule, you can find it on either side. You can find auditory capsule on either side of the cranium. On either side of the cranium you have what is known as auditory capsule. Thus auditory capsule, it has an aperture, and this aperture is known as auditory capsule. It is actually formed of calcified cartilage, and it has a small opening, and this opening is known as fenestra ovalis. The fenestra ovalis has a small cartilage, a slender cartilage which is known as columella oris fits into this aperture, and this aperture is covered by a thin membrane. A thin membrane covers the aperture. Then you have the olfactory capsule. The olfactory capsule, it encloses the olfactory organs. The walls of the olfactory capsules are mainly cartilaginous, and its posterior region is formed by the ethmoid region of sphenoethmoid. If you see sphenoethmoid, the ethmoid region that forms the posterior wall of olfactory capsule, and the walls of olfactory capsules are mainly cartilaginous. A vertical cartilage called mesethmoid separates the two nasal capsules, two nasal chambers. That nasal chamber, it's divided into two with the help of a cartilage bone which is known as mesethmoid. So you, on the posterior side you have the ethmoid dividing this aperture nasal chamber into two. You have the mesethmoid, and the dorsal wall of each capsule is strengthened by a triangular bone which is called nasal. Nasal is the bone which strengthens the dorsal side of the nasal chamber, and on the ventral side you have the vomerine teeth bearing vomer bones. And the nasal capsule opens to the outside by external nostrils and communicates with the buccal cavity with the help of internal nostrils. On the posterior side you have the ethmoid region of sphenoethmoid. On dorsal side you have the nasals. It is divided into two chambers with help of mesethmoid. On the ventral side you have what is known as vomer, and this vomer bears teeth which is known as vomerine teeth which projects into the buccal cavity. The nasal cavity has an opening anteriorly which is known as external nostrils, and posteriorly it has an opening which is known as internal nostrils. And coming to jaws, it is firmly united to the cranium. It consists of an outer and an inner arch. You can see an outer and an inner arch which is present with the upper jaw. Each half of the outer, it's bilaterally symmetrical organ, so it's two regions connected together. Each half of the outer arch is formed of the membrane bones called premaxilla, maxilla, quadratojugal, and the squamous. Here you can clearly see the premaxilla. This is the premaxilla one. Then premaxilla is actually this region, and then extends the maxilla. Then you have the quadratojugal. This bone is known as quadratojugal, and then followed by the squamosal, and followed by the squamosal, which is this bone. So 4 premaxilla, maxilla, the quadratojugal, and the squamosal. This forms what is known as upper jaw. These 4 bones form what is known as upper jaw: the premaxilla, maxilla, quadratojugal, and squamosal. Of this, the premaxilla is small bone forming the anterior part of the jaw. It joins its fellow on the other half along the medial, and the other half also you can see as premaxilla, maxilla, quadratojugal, and the squamosal. Premaxilla, it's a small bone and forming the anterior part of the jaw, whereas maxilla, it is a slender curved bone. It is curved bone which comes after the premaxilla, and behind this maxilla, the premaxilla and maxilla, both of them bear teeth. Behind this premaxilla you have the quadratojugal, which is a small delicate bone, and then the quadratojugal ends near this auditory capsule. The quadratojugal ends near the auditory capsule. The squamosal is actually a T-shaped bone. The squamosal, it is a T-shaped bone on the dorsal side. Its stem articulates to the posterior ankle. Here, this is its stem, and this stem articulates the posterior side of the jaw. One end of the arm is joined to the auditory capsule. It is joined to the auditory capsule, while the other end is, here you can see the end is free. The inner arch of the upper jaw is composed of 2 membranes. There are 2 membrane bones which is known as palatine and pterygoid. You can see here 2 membranes are there which is known as palatine and pterygoid bones. This forms what is known as palatine region, and this forms what is known as pterygoid. The palatine is a transverse bone lying between the sphenoethmoid, and it's lying between the sphenoethmoid and maxillae, whereas the pterygoid is a triradiate bone. It's also a triradiate bone lying ventrally. Its anterior ray joins the maxilla, the inner ray articulates with the auditory capsule, and the outer ray is attached to the posterior ankle of the jaw. It's triradiate bone, pterygoid, which is found ventral side. This is the dorsal view. The lower jaw is composed of, it contains 2 similar halves or rami which are joined together anteriorly by ligaments. The lower jaw is movably articulated with the upper jaw posteriorly, and most of the cartilaginous structures of lower jaw of the tadpole persist in the adult. A slender rod called Meckel's cartilage is found that forms the anterior portion, gets ossified, and it forms into a cartilage bone which is known as mentomechalin. So the lower jaw, it consists of a bone which is known as mentomechalin, and the remaining part is covered by 2 membrane bones which is known as dentary and ankylosplenoid. It is known as dentary and ankylosplenoid. The dentary is seen on the outside anteriorly, and the ankylosplenoid is the largest of these 3: mentomechalin, the dentary, and ankylosplenoid. Of these 3 bones, the ankylosplenoid is the largest of the 3 bones, and the posterior ends of each half is cartilage. It articulates with the upper jaw. Then you have what is known as few terms you need to learn, like web-footed amphibian which lives near the lakes and ponds, moves by swimming and jumping. Maxillary, bone part of the jaw. Orbital cavity, which is skull cavity that contains the eye, it is known as orbital cavity. You have the quadratojugal, which forms the cheekbone, then pro-aortic bones forming the auditory region, as well as occipital lateral bones on the lateral side. Then you have the hyoid apparatus. This structure is a typical structure seen in frogs. It is situated on the floor of the buccopharyngeal cavity. The buccopharyngeal cavity floor, you have this structure which is known as hyoid apparatus. This is remnant of the visceral arch of the tadpole. It provides surface for attachment of muscles that move the tongue and the throat. The body is a flat plate of cartilage. Hyoid apparatus, it is actually divided into body, this central portion which is known as body, and you have two process, an anterior process as well as a posterior process. The anterior part of process or cornua, they are slender cartilages extending to the auditory region. They extend to the anterior, they are known as anterior process is known as anterior cornua. It extends into the auditory capsule region. The posterior process is known as posterior cornua. It is known as posterior cornua. And this posterior, then you have a body. So posterior region you have the posterior cornua, and anterior region you have the anterior cornua. The columella is derived from the hyomandibular of fishes, and their bases are close together, and the posterior cornua, their bases are together and the distal ends are apart. And this hyoid apparatus is actually used for respiration purpose, for extending the buccal cavity during the process of respiration. So next is the vertebral column. Extending along the mid-dorsal line of the trunk is the vertebral column. They extend down from the exoccipital region. The foramen magnum extends down as spinal cord. So in order to protect this spinal cord, you have what is known as vertebral column that extends along the mid-dorsal line of the trunk. It consists of 9 small bony rings called vertebrae. They are 9 in number: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and the 9th one. So they are 9 in number. Plus you have a urostyle. This is the pelvic girdle. It articulates with the pelvic girdle. So the typical vertebrae, these structures. So the vertebral column, it is formed of 9 vertebrae. It is formed of small bony rings called vertebrae, which are arranged one behind the other. They are joined by articulation process, and this helps in slight degree of movement. There is a urostyle. So the vertebral column of frog is composed of urostyle and 9 vertebrae, which are articulated among each other, and they lie in the center of thoracic cavity. Most of the bones they are typical vertebrae. Whereas there is a change in the, and the first vertebrae is known as atlas. The first vertebrae, it's a ring like, because the centrum is greatly reduced. It also lacks precise apophysis and transverse process, and the neural spine is very much reduced in atlas. At the anterior face, it has a pair of concave articular facets into which the occipital condyle articulates. The first vertebrae is called atlas because it supports the skull on it. This is the 8th vertebrae. The 8th vertebrae differs from the typical vertebrae in having a centrum. The centrum, which is concave at both ends, and such a centrum which is concave at both ends is known as amphicoelous centrum. A centrum which is concave at both ends is known as amphicoelous centrum. The transverse process are slender and are directed slightly backwards. The transverse process, they are slender and directed slightly backwards. The ninth vertebrae, the centrum of the ninth vertebrae bears a large convexity in front and two small convexities behind. Front also it has two small convexity, a single convexity where this amphicoelous centrum articulates, and the posterior end it has two. It is bifurcated. It is bifurcated into two, and this also is a convex one. And this posterior one, where you have the two convexities that articulates with the ninth vertebrae, and the posterior anterior concavity that articulates with the eighth vertebrae. The last one, the 10th, you don't call it as 10th, it is actually urostyle, which forms the last, which is seen as the last, other than the ninth one. You will see another bone which is known as urostyle, The urostyle is a long, slender, tapering bone. It is considered to represent several fused caudal vertebrae, and the ventral part of the bone is thick, while the anterior region or the dorsal part is thin vertical ridge. At the anterior end are a pair of concavities. You find a pair of concavities at the anterior end for articulation with the ninth vertebrae, and there is also a canal or a cavity for spinal cord that is found on top of these concavities for ninth vertebrae. So that's the structure of the urostyle. The appendicular skeleton comprises the bones of the paired limbs, namely the forelimbs and the hind limbs, and the pectoral, the shoulder, and the pelvic girdle. Phalange, each of the small bones forming the fingers. Carpus, each of the bones forming the wrist. Metacarpus, each of the bones forming the part of the hand between the fingers and the wrist. Urostyle, that's adaptation of one of several vertebrae stretching the hindquarters. Ilium, projecting hip bone. Ischium, one of the three bones forming the ilium. Calcaneum, projecting heel bone. Talus, bone jointed with the leg bones. Phalanges, each of the bones forming the toes. Metatarsus, each of the bones forming the part of the foot between the toes and the heel. Tarsus, each of the bones forming the heel. And femur, which is known as thigh bone. So this is the forelimb of frog. The forelimb of frog. The forelimb of frog is actually composed of the anterior one, which is also known as upper arm, which is known as humerus. The upper arm is supported by a single bone, which is called humerus. This humerus is short. It is short and it is stout one. The upper bone, it is short, it is stout, and the proximal end is subspherical head. You have a subspherical head which fits into the glenoid cavity of the pectoral girdle. This humerus, on the distal end, it has a ball-like capitulum or trochlea which articulates with the radio-ulna. The shaft bears a ridge which is known as deltoid ridge proximally. The trochlea has a condylar region on either side. It has a condylar region the trochlea has a condylar ridge on either side, and in this region groove at the back is seen for articulation with the olecranon process of ulna. The forearm, it has two bones, radius and ulna, and they fuse together to form radio-ulna. It has a depression on the anterior region which is known as olecranon notch. It is known as olecranon notch, and at its proximal end it articulates with the trochlea of the humerus. Here, this olecranon process that articulates with the trochlea of the humerus. The articulation forms the elbow joint. The outer border of the notch extends as the olecranon process, and this olecranon process prevents a complete rotation between these radio-ulna and the humerus. And the wrist form is formed of this extends where you have the wrist. The wrist is formed of carpels. It is formed of carpels. It contains 6 carpels arranged in 2 rows of 3 each. The proximal row consists of radial, ulnar and central or intermedium. Between the 3 distal carpels articulate with the metacarpals, radial, ulnar and the central. So the 3 distal carpels articulate with the metacarpals, and during early development the distal row has 5 carpels. This is the carpels and this is the metacarpels. Metacarpals, here carpels are formed of 6 bones each. The proximal row and the distal row, they have 3 in number. The distal ones, they are known as radial. The proximal row consists of radial, ulnar and the central, and these 3 distal carpels articulate with the metacarpals. And the metacarpals bears what is known as phalanges. The metacarpals, they bear what is known as the phalanges, and metacarpals are actually the palm, and they bear what is known as the phalanges. The first metacarpal is rudimentary, while the other 4 carpels, it's rudimentary, you don't have any phalanges, whereas other ones they have they bear what is known as phalanges, and the formula is there. Here this one bears 2, here it is 0. The number of phalanges on this metacarpal, that is 0 in the case of first finger. Here it has 2, here it has 2, here it has 3, and here also it bears 3 phalanges. So metacarpals is what forms the palm. Metacarpals is what forms the palm, whereas the digits are what is formed by the phalanges, and that phalanges formula is 0, 2, 2, 3, 3. The hind limb is formed of, again it's the same what we have learned now for the forelimb. The hind limbs, they are constructed on the same pattern of forelimbs. The thigh is supported by the femur bones. The thigh is supported by the femur bones, and the head fits into the acetabulum of the pelvic girdle. It has a ridge-like structure, and this head of the femur that fits into the acetabulum of the pelvic girdle. The distal end, it articulates with the tibiofibula of the shank. Tibiofibula, it is formed of 2 bones, tibia and fibula. It's joined together to form the tibiofibula, and the tibia fibula forms what is known as tibiofibula. The angle is bit extended. The angle is bit extended in the case of frog, and it is formed of 2 bones. It is formed of 2 bones, the astragalus and the calcaneum. The astragalus and the calcaneum together form what is known as the angle bone. Astragalus is the inner thin bone and calcaneum is the outer stout bone. They are united at anterior and posterior end, and in the middle region they are free. The distal tarsals are small and are fused with the metatarsals. The instep is supported by long metatarsals. There are 5 toes. That arise from these metatarsals. So instead of the carpals, you have the tarsus, which is actually fused in the case of toes, and then you have the metatarsals, and the metatarsal bears the digits. The digits are composed of phalanges, and the formula is 2, 2, 3, 4, 3. It has 5 metatarsals, and the 5 metatarsals bears phalanges in the formula of 2, 2, 3, 4 and 3. And the sixth metatarsal or digit is also found, which is not arising from the metatarsal, which is known as prehallux or calcar, and it is supported by 2 small bones. But you don't call it as digit because it is not supported by the metatarsals. Tibiofibular, leg bones, sacral vertebrae of the sacrum, vertebra each of the bones forming the spinal column. Humerus is the arm bone, the radioulna is the forearm bone, scapula is the shoulder bone, pterygoid one of the bones of the palate forming the root of the mouth, skull, bony case of the brain. So this is the pectoral girdle. Now you have learned forearm as well as hind limb. The forelimb arises, it has a structure which is known as glenoid. I told you there is a process. The forearm, the humerus of the upper arm, the forelimb. The forelimb has a upper arm which is known as humerus, which is supported by a bone which is known as humerus. It has a shaft. It has a round. It has a subspherical head which fits into the glenoid cavity, and this cavity, glenoid cavity, you can find that is formed within the pectoral girdle. The pectoral girdle forms the chest bones. It forms the chest bones where the 4 limbs are attached. And the pectoral girdle of frog is in the form of an inverted arch buried in the body wall around the thoracic region. It protects the inner soft parts, and it also provides support for attachment of the forelimb and their muscles. It is made of bones as well as cartilage. It is composed of 2 similar halves which are united mid-ventrally. These structures are united. This is the ventral side and this is the dorsal side. And we start with the dorsal side, which is the scapular region. 2 halves are joined together mid-ventrally. The dorsal side, it is somewhat free. The dorsal end is known as scapular region. This is the dorsolateral region comprising 2 bones, the suprascapular, which is broad, which is flat plate like the suprascapular. It is flat, it is broad, and this region, it's a upper region, and the scapular region is the dorsolateral region that's formed of 2 bones, the suprascapular, which is broad flat plate. Its upper margin is made up of calcified cartilage while the lower part is bony. The scapula is a stout flat bone bordered towards the end but constricted in the middle. So constriction is there in the middle region. You have the suprascapula and the scapula, which together form what is known as the scapular region. And posterior, the scapula bears the cavity which is known as glenoid cavity, into which fits the head of the humerus. The head of the humerus fits into this glenoid cavity. The coracoid region extends from the scapular region. This coracoid region, it is composed of 2 bones and 2 cartilage. Articulated to the lower end of the scapula are 2 bones, clavicle, and this upper one which is known as clavicle, and the lower one which is known as coracoid. Clavicle as well as coracoid are present. They unite midventrally with the sternum, and the other half also unite together with this at this point. So clavicle and coracoid bones, they together form what is known as the coracoid region. And the sternum is formed anteriorly of a cartilage bone which is known as epicoracoid. Cartilage bone, the sternum is formed of episternum, which is again a cartilage bone which is found on top, and it has a inverted Y-shaped structure. From the episternum extends an inverted Y-shaped structure which is known as omosternum. The omosternum is inverted Y in shape. The mesosternum is a bony line to the epicoracoid. Mesosternum that lies opposite to this omosternum. You have the mesosternum and the xiphi-sternum. The hind end of the sternum, that is what is formed of mesosternum, which is again a cartilage, and you have a xiphi-sternum just like the omosternum. Pelvic girdle. The pelvic girdle of frog is a V-shaped, inverted, V-shaped, it's a V-shaped structure. The pelvic girdle is directly attached to the vertebral column. You can see this is the V-shaped pelvic girdle which is attached to the vertebral column. The posterior end of the urostyle is joined to the apex of the V-shaped pelvic girdle, while the free ends of the V are articulated with the transverse process of the 9th sacral vertebrae. And a disc-shaped apex, here you have what is known as acetabulum, into which articulates the head of the thigh or the femur. The girdle is made of two similar halves, and each half is known as os innominatum. Os innominatum is formed of three elements: ilium, ischium and pubis. Ilium, ischium and pubis. This portion is what is known as ilium. This is formed of ilium, and here you have the ischium. The anterior portion you have the ischium, and the posterior region you have the pubis. And acetabulum is formed of the ilium portion, the ischium portion and the pubis. These three bones together form an opening which is known as acetabulum. All the three bones share the disc of acetabulum. The ilium forms a major part of the os innominatum. Ilium, it is seen parallel to this urostyle, and there's a vertical ridge in this iliac region which is known as iliac crest. The ilia of the two halves meet posteriorly. The ilium of the two halves meet posteriorly at the and that region is what is known as iliac symphysis. The ilium forms the anterior and upper part of the disc and of the acetabulum. The acetabulum is anterior portion of the acetabulum is formed of this iliac region. Pubis is much reduced triangular piece of calcified cartilage occupying the ventral part of the disc. It is completely fused with its fellow of the other side in the median pubic symphysis. Ischium forms the posterior 1/3 of the disc. The ischia of the two sides fuse together at the median ischiatic symphysis.